I'm just, there are extra ones in here, of course.
How close are you to being out? Maybe you should take a new refill.
I'll see. Just leave you a checkbook, I mean.
No, you
Well, we're almost
make
at-
sure your checkbook has enough checks.
Well, I would hardly need any. I don't expect to be paying bills down there. Just want to see what this is. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Should I go ahead again?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Almost at the end of the
All right,
letter. Does
just
that
let
make
me-
sense? I mean, I'm going to give you something to
Just
write
give me
in.
that thing.
Here. A new one and a transaction to write what you do in it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'll get your paper, your reserve paper, and get one for myself, and go to the pharmacy. Now, shall I go to the mail, or will you go this afternoon? Incidentally, Bill, I went down the hill yesterday in Drive, not in Second or First or anything, and there was no protest from the brakes at all.
Good. Would you mind if wife takes you and any?
Nothing mind at all, why?
Because I've got, I mean, with this, I'm getting behind.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and he's expecting to go.
Good.
He asked when we would leave, and I told him. Yes. I told wife if Foster is nowhere inside and nobody knows where he is, go look out at the back, and there he'll be lying on that little mat waiting for somebody to take pity on him, and so that's where we went, and there he was, weren't you?
Well, I know Foster's habits.
Yeah, but don't leave him out in this very
Yes,
cold weather.
yes.
This was my fault. I
Yes.
let him out and I forgot about it.
Yes.
Well, he had come over here, you know, and
So
he
And
came
he
in.
does do that
Yes.
sometimes.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the sensible thing to do. But he's used to my having him on my mind and going and looking at him.
Well, I hope Sheldon works out well. And please don't hesitate to call the Visiting Nurses Association. You've got to get acquainted with that organization.
Well, I have several people who are waiting in the wings if I feel that I get from 66th to 67th on my own. Amy said call, Teddy said call, Jill Gershon said call.
Yes,
so-
but sometimes you need professional help. You can't get those people or you don't want to bother them. Just get acquainted with the organization. That's what I'm saying. In the same way with Accessori. It's a matter of being ready in case an emergency occurs. Because when the emergency occurs, it's too late to get ready.
Is Barbara coming at all this week, Bill?
Probably not.
I think she'd like to.
I know she would like to, but I don't think we'll have her this week.
How about Beeman?
Same way.
Yeah.
But either one, I may call either one depending on what develops.
I think I have enough money. I don't need to deplete your supply.
Cash.
Cash, yeah.
I was mentioning stopping off in Tokyo on my way to Korea, and Bob Boyd took me in his Jeep to the address that your mother had given me. we got there and found that both her parents were alive and well, the house was intact, her brothers were alive and well, which was very exceptional because that neighborhood in Setagaya did suffer quite a lot of damage.
Was that same house in Setagaya?
Yeah, the same house was there, intact. Her mother and father were there and well, her brothers were there and well. So I was able to go back to Manchuria and tell her that everything was okay. So she resolved to come back to Japan as a result of that.
How, was this your first introduction to your family, who would
Yeah, it
become
was-
later on your
that's
in-laws?
right, That's right. Now, when I had gone through Japan in '46, Bob Boyd also met me. He was still, at that time, he was a Navy language officer. He was in the war crimes trials in the defense. And,
In the defense side?
yeah, they had a team of lawyers who were appointed to defend the Japanese generals in the trials, just as in Nuremberg, there was a defense team,
Right.
make sure that everything was carried out in a fair manner. So the prosecution and the defense both made arguments, and the judges eventually decided. And Bob's job was to translate, help translate documents that related to the defense. One of the defense attorneys was George Furness, who was president of the Harvard Club of Japan. He's a graduate of Kent School.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And is,
Who, like you,
Yeah.
married a Japanese woman and,
well, his first wife was not Japanese. I don't know what,
Mhm.
I guess she died. And then he married a Japanese woman, and Sonoya helped her a lot, particularly with the birth of her daughter. Her son, George's son, had been born with his first wife, and he was, I think he's now still with the State Department or with some organization in Washington.
now your first trip back where, that would be 1940, first trip to where you met your future in-laws, that was 1945?
No, that was 47.
No, you said your second trip was 46, didn't you?
No, I went through in June of '46 on my way to Manchuria. I was there until the end of '47, the last month being in the hospital ship. So I had a year and a half there, part of it in Changchun, part of it in Hoten, which is Mukden. And I guess in late '46, I made this trip to Korea and had a chance to see Sonoya's house and her parents.
In Japan?
Late '46, I guess, or early '47. Then in late '47, I got a meaty abscess of the liver, went into the hospital ship in Tsingtao, in the U.S. Navy hospital ship. And I was cured in less than a month, and then I went to Japan again on my way home to the States. So I spent the early part of, I spent the later part, well, most of most of 48. See, the end of 47, I got out of the hospital ship, went to Tokyo on my way back to the States. So most of 48, I was, much of 48, I was in the States. In Sandusky with my parents, and in New York and Washington and wherever. And then I got a job. No, I enrolled in the Chinese, under the GI Bill, I enrolled in the College of Chinese Studies in Beijing to study Chinese. So I was on my way out there. I planned to stop in Japan and see Sonoyo. And I guess Bob Boyd was still there.
How did you go now? By ship this time, is that
This
right?
time I went by ship.
Because,
Well, I was going by ship from San Francisco, and there was a West Coast shipping strike. I guess longshoresmen and others.
because you didn't have the military,
That's right, it was on my
anymore.
own, except I was going under the GI Bill, but that only provided tuition.
and air travel, if you weren't military, was prohibitively expensive.
Well, it was, for me it was, yes. I don't know how prohibitive it was. When I'd gone out with the military on airplanes, it was quite comfortable, and I don't know what the cost was. But anyway, San Francisco, or the West Coast shipping strike, led me to go up to Vancouver, where I got a Norwegian ship, a freighter. And that freighter took a month to cross the Atlantic to Yokohama.
Did it break down?
Yeah, the engines broke down twice, and they had to fix them themselves.
Drop anchor or
No,
just
no,
drift in the middle of
It was tossed
Pacific
about by the sea. They put out, I guess, what do you call them?
sea anchor.
Drag anchors or something like that to stabilize it. But they had their own mechanics and their own spare parts, so they fixed the engine. I think it was burned fuel oil. And then we hit a couple of typhoons and were tossed around and delayed. So we were, I don't know what the trip was scheduled to be, probably not more than 10 days or 2 weeks, but it was 1 month. And unfortunately, the captain had who was Norwegian, had his family with him, his wife and 2 or 3 children. And we ate with the captain, so the food was wonderful. And it didn't run out in a month's time. So generally it was not such a bad voyage, even though it took so long.
Now, when you got there or on the way to Japan, you found out that that China had
Yeah, well, when I
Zedong.
arrived in Yokohama, the shipping company had a letter for me from the College of Chinese Study saying that they were closing up and no longer offering the courses. As far as I was concerned, if I wanted to come anyway to Beijing, that's up to me. But they wouldn't be there. And this was December of '48.
and did you know what was going on there with
Well, the general news through the newspapers kept track of Mao Zedong's advances. He'd already taken over Manchuria, northern China, and the fighting was going on. In Japan, instead of going to China, I stayed in Tokyo. And Suna and I lived in Surumi for a while. And I started the business.
your business at that time was as a as a Far East representative of various U.S. manufacturers.
I had a letter from Farrell to look into a licensing deal. Well, I had a letter from Mr. Takasaki while I was in the States saying he was interested in rehabilitating an enamelware factory in which he had an interest. So I looked into it and found Farrell, and they said, look, if this Japanese gentleman is a real entrepreneur, instead of an enamel factory, he should do what we do. He says that is supply freight, almost like a commodity, to the actual enamelware makers. And Takasaki, being a very progressive type of man, decided that's the way to go. So when I went out, Farrell appointed me as their representative, and I started negotiations with Takasaki's group, with the engineers and so on, and we got government to approve a licensing arrangement and started Farrell Enamels Japan.
Now we'll probably cover Takasaki, Mr. Takasaki, and your connection to him separately, but just to string this together, Mr. Takasaki was an industrialist who you had met in Manchuria. Okay.
He had not been hauled off to Siberia. He succeeded Baron Ayukawa as the president of Manchurian Heavy Industries. And when I got there, there was no more Manchurian Heavy Industries, but he had stayed, and he was leader just by acknowledgement of the Japanese community that remained, mostly women and children and non-military men.
Baron Ayukawa?
Baron, I think it was Ayukawa, Ayukawa.
Now he was the appointed head of Manchurian
Heavy Industries,
which was a Japanese nationalized industrial that supplied probably a good deal of the raw materials, including steel, to the Japanese.
Well, I'm not sure of the pre-war structure, but there was probably a Japanese nationalized mining company, the Japanese Heavy Industries Company, the coal mining, steel mining, and so on and so on. And of course the Japanese exploited Manchuria for its raw materials, and then they set up factories, built hydroelectric dams for power, and they set up factories to be able to supply in Manchuria and in China, in northern China, and so on. It was a strategic outpost for the Japanese economy, and run basically by the army. But Manchurian Heavy Industries was a big national manufacturing company, and Baron Ayukawa was from the nobility and very strong in one of the zaibatsu.
And Mr. Takasaki was his right-hand man.
Well, at some point they got together. Takasaki had really developed Toyo Seikan, the Oriental Can Company, and made the cans for the beverage industry of Japan.
This was post-war.
Pre-war.
Pre-war.
So he was he had an interest in a number of other industries. So somehow or other, and I don't know how, he was appointed by the emperor or by the minister of industry or somebody in Japan as the head of Mungyo, as they call it. Manchurian
Kogyo, or
Kogyo, or something, Mungyo. So when I got there, there was no more Mungyo, but he was there as the top man, sort of